This is Surviving Darkness podcast with Heather and Jenny.
Hey everybody, it's Surviving Darkness podcast with Heather and Jenny, minus Jenny today. We have my youngest son Jesse with us today. With work and vacations, we've had a hard time getting together to be able to record or do the podcast for this week. And it's episode 20 that Jenny was so excited about, and she's not here to say, oh, it's episode 20. Yay. So I'll say it for her, episode 20. Yay.
Yippee.
So that's 5 months of actually doing a podcast and us being very nervous about even starting it. So, I mean, it's a milestone. But today I just have Jesse here with me. And we were wanting to just talk about, we've talked about negative quite a bit of the things, and just to get an idea of why it was so hard sometimes for us to distinguish the good and the bad in the situations, because we saw a lot of the bad and the grandkids saw mostly good at that point. Mm-hmm. So like growing up, just what was your experience like with our dad and family dynamics and things like that?
He was a very good dude, at least to me and my brother. We never had issues out of him, which that could have been because we are boys. It could have been because we might have been too young. But I don't know. When everything, like, Mom was telling me about everything, it was very shocking. It's just that wasn't the same man that I was around until he passed away, because I was only 9 or so, 8 or 9 whenever he passed away, and I saw him as that great dude that took us fishing and hunting and doing all kinds of stuff with us. He'd take us to the park. He was always playing like baseball, not necessarily playing. He helped coach and stuff. So I would have never imagined him like that.
Right. He was the one that always made y'all food after school, because you all went to Mom and Dad's after school. And it was always a running joke that I'd come in and ask what he fixed y'all for your little dinner, snack, whatever. And my oldest son was like, well, we had chicken today, but it was, what was it? Steak, pork chop, fish, chicken, flavored chicken, bacon, sausage, everything, because he always used the same grease no matter what he cooked.
He always cooked in the same skillet too, and would never like super clean it. Like he'd rinse it out on occasion, but he left that thing seasoned.
Right.
So
right.
It all tasted pretty similar.
Yeah, so I would ask, what did y'all have? Well, we had whatever, bacon, sausage, steak, whatever flavored chicken or pork chops or whatever.
It made very interesting gravy, because my dad's mom has got me and my brother hooked on her gravy. But whenever she couldn't, we'd be like, can y'all try? And they didn't do bad. Nothing holds up to grandma's, though. But
well, y'all eat weird. Y'all do cornbread and gravy. Just the sound of the texture of that makes me want to gag.
It's so good. It's like how people eat milk and cornbread. Gravy's milk. Milk and grease.
I don't think I want gritty milk either, which I don't like milk anyway. But
you liked the cornbread ice cream.
Well, that's a different story.
It's the same thing.
Right.
Without the grease. You got to try it first.
But I think it's the watery milk and the cornbread grit. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I ate cream of wheat, and that's sort of, but no, that just does not sound good to me. It sounds like soggy cornbread. Ugh. Yeah. But it doesn't sound good at all. But yeah, we even have some family members that choose not to listen to the podcast because they didn't know the negative parts of our dad and prefer to keep that pretty picture of him. They don't want to hear any negative. I mean, it's to each his own, their opinion, but I choose to look at things in reality instead of through rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. That's like my girlfriend. I talk about my grandpa very highly, but she also knows about this podcast because I come over here every week and record it. And she was like, how do you look at a man highly that did stuff like that to your mother and your aunt? And I just had to tell her, I was like, it's complicated. This man that did horrible things to my family, my mom, my aunt, my grandma, was not the man that I was around growing up. That's not who I see when I look at this man.
Right.
And if they've came to forgive him, or at least mom, but I should put it this way. Sometimes you have to forgive people for your own peace. And it's not, I mean, it is forgiveness, but it's also not. Like, it's forgiving them as a person and not necessarily completely for their actions.
Right. And like I've said before, some days it's easy. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, yeah, I forgave him. It's okay. We're going to be okay. And then some days I'm overcome with anger over the things. It's nothing that you ever completely get over. Like some days I don't even think nothing about it at all. And then some days it's like on my mind all day long. Mm-hmm. And it seems like here lately, I don't know if where I'm living in the house with mom now, but I seem to be feeling more things. And I actually saw something the other night, and I keep trying to convince myself that I didn't see anything, but even your mind can't trick you into seeing a person and know that it was a man with no shirt on. Yeah. Walking through a door, but it was only like a 3-4 second glimpse of it. So you keep looking like, is my mind just playing tricks on me? Did I really see that? But you can't be that. I mean, if I would have said, oh, I thought I saw like an apparition or an outline of somebody walking through a door, but to know in my head that was a man that was shirtless. Mm. And looked like they were like sleepwalking. And it was just like 2 steps and they were through the door and into another room. So I don't know if it's just being in this house again that is causing things, but then my mom's response to any of that is, well, you must have brought it with you because I've not had anything here. But at the same time, she's talking about having nightmares every single night. So I just wonder if it hasn't been here all along aggravating her and she's been here alone and doesn't realize what's going on. But like I've said before, I never really saw anything. So it was very weird for me. I always encountered the demonic or things like that in people, not to see an entity by itself.
There was something here before you came here.
And you're one of them that see and feel things. So you have, even as a child. So you're the one that I consult with. Like if I think I'm feeling something, hey, is there really something here?
Well, last year while she was on vacation, I came here to take care of her dog. And I wouldn't stay here because I felt something here. So it's definitely not a you thing. There's something here.
Right.
But I don't know what.
And there for the longest time, I would feel it between the garage and the house. And that was after my brother died, and we had talked about before that we were in the living room and I was praying, and I am filled with the Spirit. So I was praying in tongues, and my dad began to like mock praying in tongues, and I could feel a change in the atmosphere. So I knew it wasn't a godly thing. So I started praying and had Jenny like put her hands on him, and we just prayed it out, and it felt like it always was between the house and the garage. I don't feel it so much between the house and the garage now. So I do think that somehow the door was opened and it's come back in. And it's just aggravating because it seems like it's a never ending fight to keep it out of the home and out of our lives.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. We're chasing it around. It's rough.
Yeah, and then we've had people talk about it being like a very strong demon. And I mean, I can't argue with that. It's been 30 some years, almost 40 years that I've been having to deal with this stuff. Which, I mean, getting saved and living right and stuff doesn't automatically disqualify you for demonic attacks. That sort of opens the door, because once if it has you, it has no reason to fight you. But it hates us. Satan hates people, so his demonic forces are coming to try to kill, steal, and destroy. So it's not really ever going to change. But back to the other with Dad, I never really worried so much about you all being alone. I worried about the nieces and stuff, because I didn't know of any time that he really messed with any of the male family members.
Yep.
And there was such a rift there with him and my brother. And my brother never had anything like that happen to him by him either.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was more of a female thing.
Which I sort of assumed, but he's never odd. Like, even if there were cousins and stuff here.
During that time, you were also, or he had also gotten in church.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's because of all the negative that we experienced for so many years that it was so hard for us to accept that he had actually changed, that somehow we maybe just weren't ever going to see that he had honestly changed, because there was always in that back of our mind, he's going to do this again.
Yeah.
He's going to do this to someone else. So, I mean, I won't lie and say that I wasn't upset when he passed away. He was my dad, and he was going to be gone forever. And I don't know if in my mind I had hoped that someday I would see him as this person that you all saw, that the grandkids saw, and that was no longer an option. But I hurt for you all. I hurt for the fact that I no longer had a dad. But at the same time, it was such a relief, because I no longer had to carry the burden of worry that one of the grandkids would be hurt by him, that anyone else would be hurt by him. Yeah. And it seemed to be more of a family thing. It wasn't like some random kid in the neighborhood that he messed with. It was a family thing, and it was almost like he always had that dominating force about him. You will respect me. And he did it in a scary manner. He forced respect, but it was more fear than, after I got older, it was more fear than it was respect, because he could be a little crazy. So a lot of the family knew that. So I think that he sort of fed off of that domineering person that he was, that people would just not say anything or do anything. And then he had such respect outside the home that he was like, they've tried. Both of the girls have tried getting me in trouble. I never got in trouble for it, so I ain't worried about it. People believe me rather than them anyway.
Yeah.
But it was different. It was just different for you all than what it was with us. Which
makes it a little interesting, especially sitting here on every podcast pretty much that I can be here. It's odd hearing about him in that way, but at the same time, I know that people can have two different faces significantly, but I also see that it would not be him. Not that it wasn't him sometimes, but I've seen these spirits, and I've been around them long enough to understand they can do bad things, very bad things.
Right.
So it makes it very difficult.
Right.
Because here I am, I love my grandpa, still do. And then you hear about this bad stuff, and you're like, well, am I loving a bad person? But it's just something that I made my decision on. I still love my grandpa because of the way that he treated me.
Right.
And that does make it a little difficult sometimes, and you hear this, and sometimes you're just like, really, Grandpa? Why?
I didn't really talk much about the negative stuff with him. I don't know if I ever really talked about the negative stuff with him when you all were growing up. You all didn't know anything about any of that. So you came to your own conclusion about what you all felt and thought about him.
Yeah.
I think during that time we were still trying to process what all had gone on, what was real, what was him, what was not him, that we really didn't. And we were still, I guess, still in that state of don't talk because people are going to think you're crazy.
Yeah.
But we have found that, opening up with our story and telling people what all has happened with us has given people the courage to start opening up too.
Yeah. I don't know if him living longer would have changed my view on everything.
But the person that he was at the end wasn't him either, because of what all he went through with like the oxygen dropping and stuff. He had sort of gone back to being like a rebellious teenager. And he wasn't the same person after he got back from the hospital as what he was when he went in.
Yeah.
And that I don't think would have ever reversed. It was almost like he had years prior to his death been told that like if he didn't quit smoking that he would wind up with full-blown Alzheimer's. But I think that maybe the hypoxia issues with his oxygen dropping sort of threw him into that. So he had a lot of the like dementia, Alzheimer tendencies near the end.
Yeah.
So it was sort of hard. It was almost like we lost him at the hospital because he wasn't that person. And I feel like I've met so many sides of the same person. I had the one side that I didn't really know because he was working all the time, or he was out of state working, and on the weekends he was out bar hopping and stuff like that. So I saw that person that was my dad, but wasn't really around a whole lot. When he was, it was him fighting with mom and things like that. So I had that person. And then I had all of a sudden this person that was in my life all the time and controlling every little aspect of my life, hurting me at the same time. But this great dad outside the home that was softball coach and everything. So, and then we have the dad that went to the hospital and came out a totally different person again. So I've had so many dads in one dad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what sort of what it feels like. I had so many in one.
He was definitely a very everywhere dude, especially for y'all.
Right. So I really didn't know which one to expect.
Yeah. With us, how do you explain to a 8, almost 9-year-old kid and how old would my brother be? About 10, 11.
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain to them what happened? You don't.
No.
Even if she was okay talking about it, that's too early to talk about that stuff.
I don't think I wanted to tarnish what you all saw. I wanted you all to have that experience with a grandfather like I had. I mean, my grandfather died when I was 10. Mm-hmm. And he was the best thing ever as far as I was concerned. Mm-hmm. My mom's dad was, he was wonderful. And people talk about him being grouchy. Mom and everybody talking about him being grouchy. He was never grouchy. Not with me, he wasn't. And I was the first grandkid. Yeah. So I was a little spoiled. Anything he did, I had to do. Even now, like we would sit on the front porch and eat walnuts because there was a walnut tree out back. I can't stand walnuts. And I probably only ate them then because he was eating them.
It's like me and coffee, sitting on the porch with Dad.
Right, drinking coffee. I
like coffee.
I don't like coffee. I don't like walnuts.
Yeah.
But with him, I ate them. But yeah, I wanted you all to have that. And I didn't want to tarnish the views that you all had. Well, getting to that, you're in here and you're hearing stuff that you've never heard before in your life. What does that change, like, any of your views on Jenny and I, or your views on our dad? Does it make things make sense that you maybe had questioned before?
It makes sense on why you were more strict when we were little. You were always too worried about things that even like Dad at the time would be like, why are you worried about these things happening? They're just being kids. It makes more sense now. But no, y'all are weird either way, so it...
Gee, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons, like, when you all got to be teenagers or preteen or whatever, and my oldest one especially was always so girl crazy. And I was like, no, you're not going to be alone with a girl at any point. Because I was scared of things happening, or just in my mind, I always had a negative. Not that I thought anything was going to happen, but we were told growing up that those things are normal. I didn't want that normal for my kids.
Yeah.
And even if it was cousins over, I did not want the boys and the girls in a room by themselves, because I didn't want that normal to repeat itself in our family.
Yeah.
Like, not our family, but, your generation.
Yeah, which is a little odd, I will say now. But at the same time, I understand it. I really understood not having other girls just in general. Like, you're not being in your room alone and stuff while you're young. Once we were, like, old enough to make decisions for ourselves, that you were a little bit more lenient.
But it wasn't so much like we'll clarify that one. I wouldn't have ever really let y'all in a bedroom.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But you all had a playroom that was down in the basement area, away from the adults upstairs. So I was always sort of paranoid when you all would go down there. And if it was the girls and the boys, I'm like, leave the door open, because we could hear what was going on down there. If the door was open, y'all would be like, oh, we're going to play hide and seek. We're going to turn the light off. No, you're not. You're going to leave the light on. You're going to leave the door open.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to deal with this normal that they said when we were growing up.
Yeah.
Oh, people will experiment. Cousins shouldn't be experimenting.
No, I've never had that thought about any family member
Exactly.
in my life. I've never had the urge to assault someone. That's why that's so weird coming from some people. It's like, just the urge to... I'm like, I've never had that urge in my life.
Right.
I've never looked at someone and been like, I'm going to make them do stuff they don't want to do.
Or I'm going to touch them whether they like it or not.
Exactly. I've never had that thought in my life.
Right.
Which makes it a little weirder when it's kind of like, well, that's what we were worried about. It's like, wow. But after y'all seen it for so long, I see the concern. I'd be concerned.
Right. And then, because this is why it's so important for us to stop it with this generation, because it happened to this person by a person older, and then this person did it to someone younger, and it was like a cycle of that, and they thought, oh yeah, this is normal, it happened to me, so this is what you're supposed to do. And it became a norm. And I'm sure there's other families that have had the same issues, and people look at, that's normal. They're just experimenting. It's not normal. And I think that's sort of why I have gotten the ability, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, to be able to sit and talk with someone and still hear the things that are going on around me. Mm-hmm. Like, I could be talking to an adult one-on-one, but I could still hear what's going on downstairs. And if anything stood out to me, I'd be hollering down there, what are y'all doing? What's going on? If anything, it could have been something innocent, and not that I'm saying I was making stuff up, but like a word or something would be like, this don't sound right, so let me see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it could have, I mean, it was probably just something innocent, but certain words would be like triggers for me. Hey, let me go see what's going on.
Yeah. Which does make sense to me. And I'm glad that you talk about this stuff, you and Jenny. And Grandma will a little more later on. She talks to me about it sometimes because she was just asking what I thought about everything not too long ago. She was like, do you look at me differently? And I was like, no. It's almost as if she was concerned that I didn't look at her the same way I did because she didn't stop it. It's not her fault it happened.
Which I did project a lot on you all, and whether I want to admit it or not, that my reactions and actions with you all growing up probably have caused some of your anxiety, because I was like, no, you're not doing that. And I didn't really explain, you can't do that because this. It was like I was in such a high state of anxiety myself that I projected that on you all.
It could be partially, like a bit of it, but I've been in mental hospitals. It's chemical. You and Dad really gave me the poor draw. I draw the shortest stick.
Yeah.
But it
when
definitely
I hear your brother
doesn't
talk,
help.
he does too. He's just cursed.
Yeah.
I mean, he can't even go to Shoney's on the right night.
Can't have no
Everybody else has
Shoney's.
breakfast bar on Wednesday night, but not him. Not for him. It's Thursday night. It's the only one that's even remotely close to us
35 minutes away. Yeah.
You walk in, wait, and when are y'all serving breakfast? Oh, tomorrow evening. No, I just drove 30 minutes for you to say you're not serving breakfast. I just want all the bacon I can eat.
Me and my brother got absolutely the best luck out of anybody.
He does. Well, his is, I think, a little worse than yours. I'm like, he's like, I'm just cursed. I don't know what's going on. I'm just cursed. And I can't help but laugh. I'm like, my goodness, boy, everything you try to do blows up in your face. I was like, even so much as trying to go get breakfast buffet on a Wednesday night. And they, at that one restaurant, because he even Googled it, that one particular restaurant. Oh, no, we do it on Thursdays.
He's a very, very lucky man.
So I get to hear him fussing and cussing all the way out the restaurant because he wouldn't even stay and eat. He was like, this is not what I came for. I'm not eating. And then we walk outside. He's like, I don't even know what we're going to eat now. He's like, I had this in my mind. I don't even know what sounds good. Breakfast is all that sounded good to him. It just threw him for a loop.
He's been trying to convince me to go to Shoney's and get breakfast with him for like 2 months now. I'm not a breakfast food person. Uh-huh. I'm the person that gets like chicken tenders everywhere.
Right.
I don't want breakfast food.
Right. Yeah, but his luck, everything he goes to do though, it looks like everything's going to be smooth and everything's going to work out, and then come down to the last bit of it, it just blows up right there.
I think a lot of that though is him like doing poor research on things.
So he should ask you.
Maybe. I don't do good
consulting
research
Google,
either.
consult you.
Maybe. He gets his information from Facebook. He's one of those people.
He gets it from Google, which he did Google. I was like, you should have called him and asked him if they did breakfast bar on Wednesday. He was like, I Googled it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I've just worried that my projections on you all had caused you all issues, because he's pretty high strung too.
I think that's more because of his other endeavors and problems.
Right.
Because before that stuff, he wasn't like that really. Which is a little rough because that whole thing kind of goes back to that. I know that was probably a very tough thing for you. You're like, this is the stuff that I've prevented them from dealing with for so long.
Yes, and then someone makes stuff up and it was definitely a hard time, because I had done everything I could to prevent you all from having to deal with some of that stuff, and you had to deal with it anyway.
Yep.
But it wasn't because he caused it.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Yeah. It wasn't because
I know my brother.
It's not because he caused it. Someone else makes up, and it's the enemy when it's something like that, because it was the very thing that I tried to protect you all from. It could have been a lie about anything, but it had to be that,
Mm-hmm.
which almost broke me.
Yeah.
Very close. I mean, I was about at that mental hospital too.
Yeah, that you sent me to.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But we found out what's wrong with you, and it's not so much a mental thing, but a hormonal thing that can be
It's a little bit
regulated.
It's chemicals in my brain.
Well, but it's also hormone too.
Yeah.
That causes that. I mean, it was testosterone and different things like that.
Part of it.
Yeah. So.
The testosterone stuff they said was for the depression, the anxiety.
Well, so was low cholesterol.
Yeah, I still have that.
So that's what I'm saying. Those aren't so much serotonin and all of those. It's more of hormonal.
Well, they told me what the anxiety was. It's some chemical.
Yeah.
I think they should have tested me for like ADHD or something.
I think they should have tested you for CRAZY.
Yeah.
That would have worked a little better.
Just like my mom.
Mine's not self-induced.
Perchance.
Yeah. But I mean, I have worried as you all have gotten older that maybe my being so high strung, and I've mellowed out some over the years. I try not to go plumb crazy. I still, if I hear sirens, look on Life 60 to see where you all are.
Life 60.
Life 360, Life 60, Life 360 to see where you all are, to make sure that it's not y'all.
I should note that she is not a stalker mom that made us get Life 360. I made her get Life 360.
So that you could stalk me. I have a stalker son.
Because I like to know what's going on. I have anxiety. We just went over that. And I like to know what's going on, especially when I'm living with mom. And she was working at the time, and she did a lot of driving for work. That was kind of her job, without saying her job.
Right.
So that's something I worried about a lot. So having Life 360 helps a lot.
Yeah, and then I wouldn't use it. I'd be texting saying, "Where you at? Look on Life 360." I was like, I forget about that thing.
Yeah.
Now it goes off every time you leave the house. No, it don't. Just when you come close to mine.
Yeah. Well, I have it set so it'll let me know. Oh. I said her name.
Oh, they're all set to where anytime any of y'all go by the house, it goes off. Yeah. And my oldest son is right out the road. So every few minutes, he has arrived at the house. He has left the house. He has arrived at the house. He has left the house. And I'm like, he's not even here.
I have one for here too, because it's easier for me to wake up and look and see
if he comes up the side road to hit the main road by the house, we hear it. If he comes like from on the main road past the house, we hear it. So I hear him all day long.
Yeah. It's easier to see if I check my notifications on my phone. It says Heather left home. I know she's not home. If it says Heather has arrived at home, she's home.
And then I get the text, "Where are you going?" Or the phone call, "Where are you headed?"
Dad gets it worse than anyone. Every time Dad's in one of the next cities over.
Right.
Our nearest Chick-fil-A. If he's in the vicinity, he's getting me Chick-fil-A, whether he likes it or not.
Oh, I see that you're over there. I need some Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 15, 20 minutes away from the building. I'll go ahead and put the order in.
Yeah.
You just drive through and grab it.
Back on topic, though. I am glad y'all talk about it. Sometimes I wish my older brother would listen to the podcast some, or like come here while you record. It's interesting. If anyone listening has had similar experiences and you have children that are old enough to hear about this stuff, talk to them about it. It might help them more than you think. It's probably a little different for us. We've dealt with at least the spirits and demons and stuff. I was 6 whenever I first seen things. So I've had to deal with it for a while. But even as far as like the assault stuff and things like that, if you've had that happen, especially if you have like daughters too, talk about it. It'll probably help them more than you realize. A lot of people are quiet because they're afraid of what people would think. And nobody's going to look at you bad because that happened to you. They might think you're lying. That's a possibility. But don't worry about that.
And kids are so perceptive to the spirit world. Like, a lot of kids say they have these imaginary friends. If those imaginary friends don't go away, or the kid's behavior starts changing, or they're maybe a little bit more violent tendencies and things like that, you may really want to look into whether they're having a spiritual encounter, if it's just their imagination. And where kids are so susceptible to things, a lot of people just want to say, "Oh, it's just their wild imagination." They really may be seeing something.
Yeah, I definitely seen something. I knew exactly what to do. I went in there and got Mom. I was like, "Mom, there's an evil man in my room."
You was always coming to get me.
Yeah, there was always things, and I wouldn't sleep in that room.
And it made it so hard because your dad did not want to believe that there was anything going on.
I don't blame him.
I was fighting something spiritual. I was trying to protect my kids, and I was fighting him too. So it was like triple whammies. I was trying to keep you all safe. I was also trying to teach you all how to fight, because I'm not always going to be there whenever something's going on.
You better be.
I'm not always going to be right there. And I seem to be the one that everybody's gone to anytime there's anything like that going on. So I feel like it takes a little bit of the burden off of me now that you all are older and are able to fight a little bit better. I mean, you ignore it. It knows that it's just not going to get anywhere pretty much with you. I'm sure that there's times that they catch you off guard and they still scare you, but you don't need me all the time.
There's definitely been a couple times where I'm like, all right, if this gets worse, I'm calling Mom.
Right.
She's going to come pray over this house.
Mom's headed over with the Bible and the holy water.
Yeah.
Actually, the anointing oil.
Yeah. Those Bibles hurt. Trust me. I think that's why
some of the stories y'all come up with.
Don't let her lie to you. She will hit you with a Bible, human or not.
Or Hershey eggs.
Yeah, Hershey eggs.
That's my all-time favorite.
You got him right between the eyes.
Well, I was taught you don't backtalk your parents, even if you're going out the door. And that was one of those things too, I guess, where you all were boys. I felt like when y'all were young, I needed to be stricter with you all, because I didn't want to take that chance when you all got to be teenagers of you all like balling up your fist or coming at me.
There's a lot of dogs barking. Just ignore that. They're going crazy.
And I shut the door so that they couldn't see anything.
Yeah, we don't have anyone here right now to
keep them quiet.
Keep them entertained. We're in a bit of a predicament.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, anything else you feel led to share today?
Nothing that I'm going to talk about yet, especially since Jenny's not here.
Yeah, because she will probably ask questions, and you've seen a lot. You've shared quite a bit with me, especially with the ex-husband and the things that you saw with him, like right after we got married, and then the recent dream, which is still strange to me that you would have dreams
now.
With him, yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens. Like, me really realizing what all happened to you whenever I was sitting in the car out there and saw what was going on from in the closet in the next room over. Or, like, it was implied.
Right.
But there was definitely some dark things, and I'll go more in detail in a later episode about seeing things and hearing things. It's hard to talk about, but not. It's not hard to talk to my mom and my aunt, obviously, but to put it into words for people that may not believe in this stuff is a little difficult, because you're gonna think, oh, this is just some made up fiction story, and if I was in your shoes, I'd probably think the same thing.
Right. Which leads to something else that we were talking about. It might be better to, I know that a lot of people out there actually know us personally and send messages individually or personally on Messenger, but it might be a better idea just to send it to either Messenger on our Facebook page or the contact us thing underneath or on our website, because Jenny may get busy or distracted, or I'm usually not too busy or distracted right now since I'm not able to work at this time. But I don't know that there's been a question asked, and I don't want to leave people hanging and them get the idea that maybe we've been offended by a question or something like that, just simply because Jenny is squirrely and forgets to reply. Mm-hmm. That way we both are able to look at the question, and if she doesn't get to it in a timely manner, then I can answer the question too.
And on Facebook and stuff, I can do
right
as well.
Right.
Or I can relay it to y'all.
Right.
If it's something that I can't answer.
Right, because we don't want anybody to think that we get offended or mad over any question, because we do not. We do understand that some people do believe in spiritual things. They do believe in demons. They believe in angels. And some people don't have that belief system. Yeah. And some people have never experienced. So they're curious. Like, what do you see? What have you heard? And things like that. They genuinely want to know. So we don't want anybody to think that we're angry or offended by a question.
Yeah.
But it will get answered if you put it on the Surviving Darkness podcast Facebook page, or go to our website.
Whenever you fill out that form, it is emailed to us. We get an email because you made a response. If you have questions, ask questions. There's no bad questions. A bad question is only the question you didn't ask. So,
and our Facebook page will keep sending you reminders too. Hey, this person has been waiting for a reply.
Yes.
But on our individual messenger, I don't know that Jenny has gotten a message. She don't know that I've gotten a message, and we just don't want anybody to feel like we just don't have time for you.
Yep.
To answer those questions. I think that's all. And you're working on getting some products put on our website. So when that's up and running, if people are interested in getting like t-shirts, things like that, that will be available. I know I want to wear a Surviving Darkness t-shirt, not because it's our podcast, because that's another way to get connections with people. Mm-hmm. They'll be like, what's that mean? And plus, I mean, I'm proud to be a survivor. There's so many people that have not. They have taken their own lives and everything else because of the things that they've gone through. Yeah. So I'm proud to be someone who has survived things that should have mentally and physically taken me out.
Yeah. Some people just don't do that.
Right. Or turn to other means to deal.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to reach people that are hurting, that are scared, that feel alone. I want to be able to reach them. So we are, and there are people listening right now that have survived their own darkness. So, I mean, it's a way to open up doors of conversations.
Yeah.
So, but I guess that's all for this week. It's a little different than usual.
That's for sure.
And hopefully we'll be together next week, and maybe we can get Jesse to talk a little bit more in depth of the things that he's gone through, because we know Jenny will give him a smackdown if he talks about all this stuff and she's not here to ask questions. But you all have a good week, and thanks for joining me, Jesse, and sharing your thoughts. I don't know. I guess I felt that people need to see that why we have such a hard time, because it wasn't the same person our whole life. Yeah. All right. Well, you all have a good week, and thanks for joining us.